Good evening, AOBE members, BISD employees, and our community, Brownsville. This is Veronica Borrego, your AOBE president. I'm going to allow everybody to introduce themselves, but first I'm going to go to my left, Micaela.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Micaela Escobar, and I'm the Vice President of AOBE, and I also serve on the TSTA board.
Next to her, we have a very special guest, Ms. Fiona Tulip. Ms. Fiona, can you give a brief introduction?
Sure. I am Fiona Tulip. I am actually Veronica's cousin, and I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm here to talk about my story.
And then right below me, we have the amazing Ms. Jimena Guajardo. Ms. Jimena?
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jimena Guajardo, and I am a student at Omaha High School, and I am a senior.
And then right next to her, we have the beautiful Ms. Ida.
Hi, everyone. This is Ida Beldaño. I am with AOBE and TSTA.
All righty. So we have a very special show. I may get very emotional, as will my cousin. I'm going to start with a brief little video to show all right. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
COVID-19 is a thing of the past.
Sorry, I had to unmute it.
Hope that COVID-19 is a thing of the past. 2020 is a promising year yet to come. That was one of my mom's last Instagram captions. A hardworking respiratory therapist on the front line. She died of COVID on the 4th of July. I wonder if the president had issued a national mask mandate, if my mom would still be alive today. I wonder if mask wearing wasn't considered a political issue, if she would still be here to celebrate my daughter's first birthday. Just as President Trump ridiculed masks, Governor Abbott resisted a statewide mask mandate. For me and my family, July 4th will never be the same. Every year, while Americans are celebrating their independence, we'll be reminded of the America that was anything but that under today's leadership. These deaths were preventable. My mom did not deserve to die alone in a hospital. Had the president prioritized human life, then we could have saved hundreds and thousands of lives already lost, including my mom's. Hope that COVID-19 is a thing of the past. 2020 is a promising year yet to come.
Sorry.
That was
okay. Sorry, I'm not. We're still working on the technology, guys. So I just wanted to play that video. That is a video that my cousin made a while back for in memory of my aunt, and just kind of discussing, her thoughts on how this tragedy happened. But I wanted also for you guys to see that she has been in a really big fight, and making sure that her story is heard, my aunt's story is heard, and her story is heard. So I wanted to also share, before I give her a time to speak, her efforts are being noticed. My aunt's story and Tiana's story were posted on Joe Biden's Instagram page, which just goes to show that my cousin is making a difference. She's making a difference. She's making noise. And so I just wanted for you guys to be able to meet her. She's amazing. And I'm going to give her some time to speak. And we'll probably go through a few questions, if any of that there are on the chat. Fiona, can you tell us a little bit about your what it is that's been going on with you so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me tonight. It's an honor to speak to you and your team and your audience. I've been on a crusade since my mom died on July 4th. And it was because I quickly learned, when I thought about how can I bring my mom back, which obviously isn't possible, I thought about what happened and how did it happen. My mom was as you saw in the video, a respiratory therapist. She went into work knowing that she was putting her life at risk. They didn't have enough PPE for her. They weren't able to really protect her because it was all so new, and many states, including Texas, was unprepared. When my mom was working one day, she shared a story with Veronica, actually, about how one of the patients she was taking care of had a visitor, and the visitor wasn't wearing a mask inside of the hospital. And when my mom asked her to put one on, the visitor said, "Why should I wear a mask if my president isn't wearing one?" So it was that story that made me realize that, masks are a real issue, and they've become political, and COVID has become political. Never did I think when I would be talking about my mom's death in that same sentence that I would be talking about politics. That's the last thing I want to be talking about. But when I looked at how it was being handled in the United States and within Texas, where my mom lived and worked, I quickly saw that there were some real failures by the administration. And I felt it was my job to speak up in order to get justice for my mom. She didn't deserve to die. And the 230,000 plus people who have died didn't deserve it either. So as a result, I invited Governor Abbott to my mom's funeral. I wanted him to see firsthand what it was like for a family to suffer, because he opened the state too early and he mandated masks too late, the day before my mom died. So I invited him, and then I wrote an obituary called An Honest Obituary, where I talked about my mom, but I also held leadership accountable for her death. And I let everyone know that it was because of their failures that my mom was dead. So as a result, I have been very vocal. I've been speaking with the media about my mom's story. And the reason for that is because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. People don't really understand that this is real and that it's not a hoax, and that mask wearing can save lives. In fact, research recently came out that said that if people wore masks between now and February, we could save 130,000 lives. But if we keep going on this trajectory that we're on right now, where there's fights about wearing masks, where, the president is sort of calling this, saying it's not as serious as it is, we could actually lose 1 million lives. So save 130,000 lives or lose 1 million lives. It's an easy choice. And so because of that, yes, I have been advocating for change in our leadership and for helping people understand how serious this election is. It's the election, not taking part in the election is saying I'm not going to save a life. And that's how I view it. Not wearing a mask is saying I'm not going to save a life. And so I created that TikTok video that you saw because, well, I had to teach myself how to use TikTok. But I did that because I realized that there was an audience out there that I probably wasn't reaching when I was talking to CNN or MSNBC. And I felt like there was a whole group of people on TikTok who I also wanted to speak to. And so I created that video. And yes, when Joe Biden saw my story and posted it on his page, it solidified my feeling of, the change needs to be made, and none of our family members or loved ones deserve to die this death. It's a horrible death, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
And, aside from it being a horrible death and her having to go through what she went through, and then, just briefly discuss about the night before and the morning of how she did not want to go to the hospital and things like that. If you can just briefly mention, I know that's really hard and I'm probably going to start crying when you say it, but I think that it's very important. She worked in the medical field and this is what she was going through. And I just want you to kind of mention how she didn't want to go.
Yeah. So my mom working in the hospital, she saw the spike and the surge hit her hospital. So they had to eventually take on COVID patients and, put themselves at risk, even though they were reusing PPE for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
she started feeling symptoms on a Saturday. She went home on Saturday, started feeling sick. She couldn't get tested at her hospital because they didn't have the ability to test at that time. So she spent 2 days looking for a testing site. And this is a healthcare worker who can't find a way to get tested. She's feeling sick. She has a fever. She just wants to sleep. And she is online searching for a testing site. Eventually, on the night of Monday, so 2 days after she started feeling sick, she got tested. And 30 minutes later, she found out she was COVID positive. Throughout the week, she would document her symptoms. Her doctor said it was a mild case. Because she's a respiratory therapist, she knew how to help herself breathe. And she did that so that she wouldn't go to the hospital. She didn't have to go to the hospital because she knew how bad it is there. She told a family member, "You don't understand, it's worse there." Again, this is a healthcare worker who doesn't want to go to the hospital. So she's treating herself at home. And she's doing that by laying on her stomach, by emptying up her lungs and just moving from side to side in her bed. And when my brother, on the morning of July 4th, which was exactly a week after she started feeling symptoms, my brother saw her and it looked like she had had a stroke. She couldn't really talk. And my brother said, "We need to call an ambulance." And she didn't want to call an ambulance because it was too expensive. So again, this is somebody who works in healthcare who doesn't have the means to pay for an ambulance, who doesn't trust the hospitals because they are so overwhelmed and they're so unprepared. And the point of those things is that, they are going into work every day with this brave face, but they are scared. They don't know a lot about this virus. They don't know if it's going to affect them. And it's important to remember that when we are wearing our mask, we're actually helping them too. We're supporting healthcare workers because the more we put them at risk, the less we're going to have people saving us. And so it's really important to remember that this is about saving our healthcare workers too. Keeping the numbers down, staying home, not going into those, not eating inside a restaurant, not going to bars, not going to Walmart, just staying home is actually saving our healthcare workers too. And it's saving someone like my mom, who was a doting grandmother, and we're going to miss her. I mean, we do miss her. And so I think the thing to remember is it's not me versus you, it's us versus the virus. And we need to come together to remember that.
Go ahead, Ida.
I'm sorry. You mentioned that they were using the same PPE for 2 weeks. Is that correct?
They were. They didn't have enough PPE in their unit. And so they had to reuse it. My mom said that they would give them the PPE. They assigned them, their 3 PPE for the couple of weeks, and she would have to hand it in at the end of her shift. And she was telling me that people were actually hoarding them. They were hiding them because they didn't want to turn it in at the end of the shift. They wanted to save them for when things got worse. But yeah, she didn't even have N95. She just had the regular surgical masks, but they didn't have N95s for her.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is heartbreaking. And I can only imagine, because I personally, because I've also been impacted by family and friends that have lost the battle to COVID. And it's very frustrating and upsetting when I see people not doing their part as far as using their mask and things like that. And it's easy to start to think like, oh, okay, it's a little bit more under control, because life continues to move on. We continue to go here and there because we have to. And I was actually telling Veronica and Micaela the other day that I was starting to get a little bit too comfortable again, and then lost another life of somebody that I know just yesterday. And then you get that wake up call again, and, to remind you how real this still is. And it was so rapid as well, just like that. So I can imagine, and, having someone as close as your mother, to lose to this battle, when she was out there doing her part, contributing, not giving up, because being in the front line and working like that, I personally would have probably said, you know what, I need to step back. I can't, but, that sounds like, she was an amazing lady, and she did her part, all the way to the end. So, wow.
Yeah. She, that exactly what you're saying, Ida. It was always everybody before her. That's just who she was. She was actually supposed to be in New York visiting Fiona and the baby. Of course, this baby was her everything because it's her only grandbaby, her first grandbaby, and she was, so in love with her, but she chose to stay behind because it was too dangerous. And instead of staying home on the time she should have been with Fiona, she went into work because they were so overwhelmed. And that, Molly, and that was when she got sick. So, that was who she was. That was who my aunt was. She was a very giving person. It was always everybody before Molly's very upset too. Sorry. It was always everybody before her and her needs. And so, it's very hard to deal with. It's very hard to know that it probably could have been prevented. And Fiona talks about how they didn't have the appropriate PPE, and we know that that's happening in our district as well still. Before we segue into Ms. Jimena, I wanted to ask Fiona. She's a mom. Of course, her child is young. But as a mother, if your child was a school-age child, how would you feel about having to take her back to school?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I thought about it a lot. And I have to say that I commend the teachers, I commend your team for what you're doing. It's a hard job. And with the pandemic, you've had to put on so many hats, and it's not easy because there's still so much we don't know about the virus, and it's dangerous. And you too are putting your lives at risk every day, for the sake of educating future leaders. And that should be applauded all day long because it's brave, and it's something that not many people are willing to do. It's very similar to healthcare workers. I think there's still a lot that we don't know. And so because of that, I'm a very protective mom, just like my mom was with me. I would want to keep my daughter at home because I do feel like there's still so much unknown, and I feel like there's a lot to be learned with keeping the school safe. It comes down to ventilation systems, which cost a lot of money, and they're not, we're not putting those into place when we're thinking about reopening schools. And it just seems a little haphazard. If there was a solid kind of mandate into how to safely open schools and to do it in a way that protects students and it protects teachers and protects families at home, then maybe. But I think there's still so much to learn. And I truly feel like if we're going to reopen schools, then businesses like restaurants and bars and other indoor spaces where adults are congregating should be shuttered. And Texas is not doing that. Because Governor Abbott wants to reopen, they're putting the schools at risk. He's putting the schools at risk. The schools should be priority, so then the rest of the community should be closed. And that's just how I feel about it.
Absolutely.
And by doing that too, he's setting up for it to be an issue for the hospitals as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah. They're not in a position.
Also, they haven't even asked any healthcare professionals or even nurses or any actual experts what they can do, or even nurses, because if actual hospitals can get proper care, how do we expect small schools or small districts to have the proper care,
Exactly.
especially for nurses?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And we
it's
are
very heartbreaking
oh,
to
yes,
see that.
yes, it is very heartbreaking. And
Now,
we're
I did
looking.
see, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I saw it was actually on The View that Governor Cuomo came out and from New York, and he said that 98% of the people in New York are wearing masks. So, you know, where they managed to go from the biggest hot spot in the United States to now at the very bottom.
Yes.
And yes, the numbers are starting to rise, but he's just very proactive. And he
He
said
is. And
the tactic that he used in this is being honest and transparent with the people. Imagine that. Who would have
yeah,
thought that that would be like, oh my gosh, you know, something that is not thought of. And, you know, unfortunately, that is what we're seeing here in Brownsville. A lot of people trying to cover it up and oh, it's not that bad, and not being upfront with the positive cases, the contact tracing, and all of these things. And, you know, and that's what ends up hurting us because we're in denial of what we're going through right now. And it's very upsetting because
yeah,
we don't get a second chance once that life is lost. And, you know, the only thing we can do is start to learn in this journey, this brand new journey that everybody's trying to figure it out as we're going. But to have New Yorkers at 98% compliant with wearing masks, and you know, he made sure that it is required from the businesses, from everywhere else, you know, it is mandated. I mean, that's a
yeah,
true leader.
yeah.
And you
No,
know what, if you can't get the governor to support this, then I wish the superintendents or city officials would, I'm sorry, but man up and say, you know what, this is what is going to be required. Because if I can save at least one life, it'll be worth it. I don't care who else might think we're overreacting, but it needs to be done.
Right.
I just thought it was unbelievable.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think it is so different. When I went to Texas for my mom's memorial and burial, you could sense the difference. You know, the thing that Cuomo did here was he was honest with us, and he, you know, kept saying New York tough, you know, New York proud. And it was all about unity and saving each other. And so there was never a question, you know, as soon as I step outside, of course I'm going to have to wear a mask. In fact, you know, my building won't let us walk outside of our door without a mask. And there's no question about it. And if someone has COVID, we know. And I'm going to share a quick personal story, but my father lives in Brownsville and he has COVID right now. And the way that he's sort of approached this virus, even though my mom, his ex-wife, died, has been surprising to me. When I asked him, you know, were you eating inside of restaurants? And he said, of course. But eating indoors is not safe. And that's something we know very well here in New York. You know, he would sometimes wear his mask kind of under his nose, and Cuomo made sure to say, it is not a chin guard. It is not a chin guard. It needs to cover your nose. You know, so the kind of education we have here is in huge contrast to the kind of education that is happening in Texas. And it really comes down to the leadership. And that's why elections are so important. And this election and the 2022 election, when Governor Abbott is up for re-election, it's so important because right now it's down to human life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we cannot forget. And that's what we've been telling people. The leaders that we have right now at the district level, we cannot forget this torture that we have been through since March, of the lack of leadership and decision making as far as putting the employee's safety first. And right now is the time where you're going to hear our voice. You didn't want to pay attention when we asked you to close down the schools, when we asked you to let us work remotely, when we were able to work remotely. All these different things and concerns that were brought to their attention. Right now is the time that they hear our voices, because our vote is going to be speaking very loud on our behalf. And we can't forget that. And that's why it's so important now more than ever. I know we hear it everywhere. You have to vote as if your life depends on it, because it does. We're at that point. It does.
I would like to add something else. I have been very quiet in the past. I mean, I've been in the district for 23 years. But when my son had COVID, I literally went out and said, you know what, I am afraid of retaliation because this administration is not supportive, but I'm more afraid to die. I saw what COVID did to my son, and just the thought of losing him drove me crazy. I could not think about anything other than my son. And I kept thinking, like, why am I living if my son is going to be here?
Yep.
And I get very emotional because I don't want to live through that again. And I can't imagine a mother losing her child. I mean, I can't. And yes, we're speaking up louder. And right now, you know what? We don't care. At least I don't care. I'm going to make sure that people hear me because it is important. And our lives depend on it.
Right. Right.
That is definitely correct. I think even in the summer, for curfew and for mask mandates and for everything like that, it only lasted like what, 2 weeks, and then we didn't have a curfew. Even Hidalgo had a curfew, like up to a couple weeks ago. They had a curfew. Nothing, and I see all of my friends always on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, still going out, going to restaurants. Restaurants we can pass through in Brownsville, for example, to Roadhouse. Every single day, there is a line of a group of like 30 people by the door. Even at Target, you'll see, you drive by, there's groups of 7 people, one cart, 7 people going inside. Nobody's taking responsibility. The mayor hasn't come out and said anything, hasn't tried to close anything down. No leadership is being shown. What can we expect from the people if the leaders of our district and city are not showing responsibility or being held accountable for what they've done and what they're doing? Because again, I've said before, every single day it's a choice to change what they're doing, to change the rules instead of curfew. But they choose not to, and every single day they could change it, but they just don't want
You're
to.
absolutely right, Jimena. And
Absolutely.
one of the things that
Why do you think, Jimena, that they don't want to? Why do you think that they
It's
refuse
probably
to?
for convenience. A lot of them have businesses. Like I know the mayor has a restaurant, so it's probably more convenient for them to have people. They had a curfew till 10. People won't go since they open later. A lot of those politicians have businesses or connections to others, and they want to help each other, not the public, just each other. They're a little tiny group of like 15 people instead of the thousands of people in the district and the valley.
Absolutely. Yep.
exactly.
It's not that hard to figure it out. I mean, when they put all these things before, one's life or safety and things like that, it's very easy to see where their priorities lie. And it's sad because I think if we were to have leaders that would put that first, and it's not going to be popular with everybody, it's not going to sit well, but I'd rather have that than have one extra life lost during this process.
They just don't have a conscience or empathy or sympathy. I think I've said it before in other shows, is we need to have leaders that have actual empathy towards the people, even the teachers, the students, every single worker. If they say everybody needs to wear a mask or lower the capacity, because I've seen restaurants and they're nowhere near 50%. They're at 100%. That's not fair, because some of the workers, like the waitresses, the cooks, they're doing it because they have to. They have to work. They're doing it because they want to. They're called, obviously, and they have to work, and they're not giving them a choice. They don't decide the capacity of the restaurants. So why can't everybody just lower down to 50 or wear a mask everywhere? Or even the restaurants are outside. Everybody's always trying to go inside every single day. They're taking the pandemic kind of like a vacation or an excuse to go out every single day. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but even grocery stores like Walmart or HEB, instead of only being full like on Sundays, they're full every day, all day. You can even see people buying a ton of meat and chips for their carne asadas, for their parties. It is not a vacation. It's a pandemic where everybody should be staying inside, but they're using it backwards.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're right, Jimena. One of the things that I did want to bring up in reference to, remember a few weeks back when we had mentioned during the meeting about during the board meeting about not wanting to return and having to stick to the numbers, the CDC guidelines, and all that. And then we get a letter from the county judge, right, stating that BISD was not included in those. Was it the county judge or was it the mayor?
I think it was a judge.
It was the judge, right? And so that we weren't included in those restrictions as a public entity that we were. So instead of helping us, it seems like it's going backwards. We need to be remembering that when we get all, perfect example, Ms. Jimena, the senior that went on campus knowing she had COVID to go take her senior pictures. What
Yes.
is going to happen when all students are allowed back on campus? We have a lot of parents that send their kids sick all the time. They're not going to send them sick if they have COVID.
Also, I've noticed, like, even in schools, there's a lot of, like, always couples being together, or even the lunches and people chatting through the hallways. There is no possible way that anybody could separate the people. 8 a.m., there's everybody already hugging each other, being with each other at lunchtime. Everybody's always together. There is no way. Like, I go to Hannah, we're a big school. We have a big class. There is no way that they could separate them. Even during lunch, they're everywhere. It's not like everybody's just a cafeteria. They're everywhere. There's no way they could possibly control everybody and give them a specified spot. Just no way.
And the thing is too that the district is hanging on to the fact that team is only recommending, they're recommending social distancing, and so the district is saying, well, we don't have to have that space to separate people because it's not being required. It's just a recommendation. Masks are a recommendation. Everything is a recommendation. So if it's a recommendation, why can't our local leaders and our superintendent, if it's a recommendation and you have the choice, then do it. Keep the social distancing. Make the masks required. Make sure that all the schools have the appropriate PPE, which still, schools and departments, which still that's not happening. We're still getting a lot of calls about people being given one or two masks. That's supposed to last them a month. We still have expired PPE on some campuses. Expired from was it 2009, Michaela?
I don't remember the year, but
Yeah,
it was
about 2009.
Wow.
And so they're requiring certain individuals to report to school, but giving them hand sanitizer that's been expired for years and one or two masks to last them a month.
I was also thinking, like, I don't know, but some schools, like personally from Hannah, again, we have like the portables and they're very small, fit like mostly like 15 to 20 students.
Right.
How are they going to fit like the 20 students in the small classroom when before we were already packed? How are they going to have that division and the separation in those small classrooms? Because again, there was never any funding to create actual classrooms, just the portables that have like cockroaches. So if they can even be cleaned properly to not have cockroaches, how would it infect them between periods?
And then those portables, Jimena, are old, and so the ventilation system in those portables is not. That's not
Definitely.
anyway. Yeah, that's not in any way ready for them.
said a good point. The cleaning. I don't believe our custodial staff has been taught how to disinfect. So if someone has COVID, what's going to happen?
Well, personally, I'm part of a lot of like extracurriculars. So I would say that school like very late because I have a lot of extracurriculars. So then I would see the custodians come in and clean. They would just get the broom, sweep a little bit, and take out the trash. There was never any mopping or cleaning. And obviously they're probably underpaid and don't get paid for extra hours. But again, if before they only like did a little sweep, just like 3 seconds and take out the trash, how are we gonna expect? Are they gonna be paid double? Or are they gonna get more custodians? What's gonna happen within that budget? Because again, we have a $500 million budget for BISD, but I had said before, we have like a $15 million budget for plant maintenance and a $10 million budget for data analytics. which is not explained at all, how we're spending $10 million on data analytics. But we cannot have more custodians to mop the floors so we don't get cockroaches. Like, it was so embarrassing. During classes, I would literally see a cockroach, and I'm scared to death of cockroaches. So I would get on top of a chair, and then everybody would just be trying to catch a cockroach in between of like English or math class.
Yep. It's very true. I don't see that campuses are being disinfected. I mean, cleaning and disinfecting is a very different thing, right? And so,
and that's the thing. We have to remember that custodians were added more square footage.
Exactly.
So they reduced the number of staff, and they have more rooms to clean. And like you said, there's a difference between cleaning and disinfecting. With COVID, you're supposed to clean every common area. Every common area. So do we have the personnel to do it? Do we have the chemicals to do it? I don't know. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I think the whole, keeping schools, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying that keeping schools safe requires a lot of money, and it requires an investment that I don't think we're getting to do it. They would need to be trained to do this, to clean the schools properly. And yeah, they need the tools and the pay, because it's going to be a lot of extra time, and they're not getting that. I think we're very unprepared right now with reopening schools, and it's putting people's lives at risk.
Exactly. That's exactly
Absolutely.
it.
I agree. Jimena, if you can, I know everybody has expresses, and we've seen how it's impacting families, how it's impacting the teachers, the employees, the people, the frontline employees. But we'd like to hear what you've seen, or personally, how COVID has impacted you as a high school student or any of your friends. What have you seen, that has really been, heartbreaking, or has made you realize that we're in different times now, and it's never going to go back to what we had before?
Well, definitely. Well, personally, from what I've seen, students, especially, at this age, there's a broad group. So there's the group that is happy, that has gone on like 10 trips since May and March, and is always with their friends and takes classes with the same table in their homes, and they turn off the cameras and are just having fun. Then there's the group that are very stressed out, that they can't with their classes, that have school from 8:50 to 4, plus tutoring, so that's 4 to 5:30, plus homework 5:30 to 2 a.m. So there's that, which I'm part of that group. Still, I have my homework, and I see very late because of all of my homework, because AP classes, and then I'm a senior, so then there's graduation requirements, the testing, that calls applications, the essays have to be corrected, so I have to email my English teachers, can you please check my essay? And then they're busy because, again, like personally, my English teacher, he tutors from 7 to 8:30, and then again class, and then again he tutors from 4 to 6. So they don't even have time to be checking all of our essays because that's extra. Then there's the group that take everything relax and think that it's okay, it's a free year, free class, and don't submit anything because I won't fail them, but then they do fail them. So then they get more stressed out because they're at the end of the 6 weeks and don't have any work, and they're probably going to fail and they haven't learned anything.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly right. And one of the things too, in reference to that, Jimena, is that there's a lot of teachers that are being blamed for those groups. And so, we as teachers, yes, we call and we try to make contact and we try to ensure that they submit assignments, but we can't go to their houses to force them to do it. So really and truly, the accountability should be placed on the parent and the student, as well as the teacher. But in reference to the not submitting of assignments, the not showing up to the classes, I mean, whose choice is that?
Definitely the students. But then again, I personally know some friends that have right now 3 to 4 jobs, and they have like a morning job and during their hour lunch, and they're trying to juggle so many jobs, and they just can't. On the way to work, they're on their phone trying to submit assignments. I have friends who, again, because they have different mental disorders, that with their parents yelling at them, with the stress, parents who are again teachers, them giving classes, their homework, they just can't. And before, when it was face to face, you could explain, "Hey, ma'am, I've been having trouble. My parents got divorced. His family's sick." There was no more of that personal connection.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes embarrassing. I had to actually email one of my teachers when my great grandma died to be like, "Hey, sir, I have my grandma's funeral, and I cannot submit this assignment. Can I please get an extension?" Obviously, they say yes, but it's very hard. Before it was easier because it was like conversational, but when it's through a screen, like through an email, it's just much harder to even like type it. Like when it was my great grandma's funeral, it was like at 4:30 or 4:45. So then I had my class at 4:05. So I had to, while I was in class, while I was doing my homework, I had to get ready, do my notes because I was going to speak. So it was just so hard that I had to still be in class, but great for the funeral. And the day before that, they had just told me that she got died, and I was meeting class. And I said, "Sorry, I can't talk to you. I'm going to do a test in like 5 minutes, and I can't just say, hello, my great grandma just died. I need like an hour to process it." There's not really an excuse for that. So just to continue class, continue my homework as if nothing had happened. And a lot of students are going through that because a lot of deaths are going through COVID. There's so many like personal issues that they can't really express because there's nobody to talk to. And I understand that counselors right now are overworked because of the whole pandemic. Because again, we don't have enough funding to give the counselors to be able to have more or more hours for them to talk to us and have somebody to talk to. But we don't really have that. So then again, I feel worse for students who are already struggling with depression and anxiety, which has not been heightened. So I don't even know how those are doing. Like I have friends who do have anxiety and do struggle from depression, and they're doing terrible. Not to sugarcoat it, but they're doing terrible. They have the classes and the stress and their parents and little siblings. It's just terrible for them. And the district is not doing anything. They're just blaming the teachers for being lazy when they are not taking accountability for their actions. They're not taking into account all the students who don't have a perfect house and don't have perfect Wi-Fi and don't even have food.
Yep. That's very
Wow.
true.
And so that was going to be my question. So the district, as far as what you have seen, the district is, we have to change with what we're going through, which is why we decided to do, this broadcast now, to be able to be in contact with our members and get the information out and get input as well. So I feel that what I've seen is the district is still not changing enough with what we're going through. So have you seen that they started to implement anything to help with this, to help the students through this difficult time? Because I've wondered what it is that you guys are going through. I mean, we see it's hard enough being a student, in this day and age, but now, with the pandemic on top of that, and how you mentioned having to be at home with the siblings and still trying to get your work in, and you don't know if they lost their job, their parents lost their job, or whatever difficult issues that they're going through. And I can imagine how much more difficult it is on the students. So have you seen anything that the district is doing or your campus is doing to help address these additional issues that the students are facing nowadays?
Oh, definitely not. Because a clear example would be 20 minutes away, Portishead High School, 20 to 30 minutes away. They change the schedule so it can be from 8 a.m. to 12:30. So they have like 4 classes every single day, and they plan it out every single week. So then they have the teachers' hours, their lunch, they have tutoring, so the teachers can actually get paid for tutoring, because some teachers right now don't even get paid for tutoring. And then they even have teachers' office hours, so they have the time to prepare the lessons. You guys isn't doing any of that. My teachers, they have 2 hour or like sometimes 4 hour tutorings, and they don't get paid for that. They don't have work hours, they don't have the office hours, and the students have to be, again, from 8:50 to 4:05 in BISD. And some of them have work. I have a lot of homework that I have to even finish at 1 a.m. just to be up the next day at 7 or 8. If Portishead High, that's 30 minutes away, that has not even a fraction of the subject that we have or for the budget, because we have $500 million. They have better schedules because they actually care about the students in their own website, on their Twitter account and Facebook. They put, here is the number you can talk to. If you ever feel sad or you want somebody to talk to, your counseling department is here for you. They hide the budget for them. BIC has not done anything. The only thing they do is switch everything from virtual. Schedule is the same, everything is the same. Even for our materials, I got nothing. But they were going to give us a backpack, some binders, and pencils. We're not writing anything. We're not carrying anything. Everything is online. So I didn't get any materials. My friends, some only got a binder and a pen. So even if we got the materials, we weren't having able to use them because we're not taking things anywhere and nothing is written. They couldn't have given us iPads or proper Wi-Fi or a tablet. I don't know why they were thinking of giving us a binder. We're not storing papers.
Wow.
Yeah. Jimena, my hat's off to you. You're very smart for a 17-year-old.
I would like to thank my teacher at Humana High School.
Better than anybody.
And it's very true. I'm giggling, I'm chuckling because you're how old, Jimena?
17.
And a 17-year-old is aware of this. We spent money on, she doesn't agree with the money. We spent money on all of these, the district spent money on all of these supplies and all of these things when they could have been spending them on the hotspots that were lacking, or the devices that were lacking, or PPE that is lacking, masks that are lacking, hand sanitizer that's lacking, money for counselors to be able to service students through a hotline 24/7, because depression doesn't go away at 2:00 in the morning.
No, it doesn't.
You know, we need to who's making these choices on where the money's going to go. You know, if they would have included different departments in the task force,
Their task force,
we would have been able to give some of this input. And
absolutely,
we're not given that opportunity.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if any of you I don't know if any of you have checked the budget, but it's on the school website, and it's absolutely horrific. Like 50 million for plant maintenance. Like, I don't know if, well, some of you definitely are teachers, but I've gone to pay because my friend goes there, and there's like the front entrance has paint chipped. Like the gate is all rusted. Like, what are they maintaining? Where's all this money going to? First of all, they don't need to repaint anything, and they don't even repaint anything. So I don't know where this 50 million is going to. And instead of going 50 million to maintain or plant maintenance, couldn't they just, with half of that or even a fifth of that, give it to the counselors, have different groups to help the teachers, to help the students?
To help the employees.
Yeah. You know, and we're not only talking about like students like Jimena was talking about how, you know, there's students that have anxiety and different things. She also mentioned, you know, people are losing family, people are losing friends, people are losing loved ones to COVID. And, you know, at a young age, as an older person, it's hard to deal with as it is. As a young person, as a young child in school, a school-age child, how do you process that? They need help with that. And that's not being, you know, that is part of safety and wellness that is not being looked at for our students or for our staff, because we are all losing family, we are all losing friends, and you know, it's very hard to see so much loss and death around you. It's very scary.
And not only that, we don't know the consequences.
It's like Fiona said, though. Yeah, but it's like how Fiona said earlier, that it's not us against them, or you know, this party against that party. You know, it's us against the virus. Mm-hmm. So we got to start to work together. And sad to say, but this is not what we see from the current superintendent and school board members. I hate to take it there, but you know, but I have to, because we are where we're at because they didn't take action. These issues and concerns Not some of these that we're hearing tonight, right? But there's been issues and concerns that have been taken since this pandemic started, and they have not taken care of these things. So, but like I said earlier, this is where our voice is going to be heard, because we're going to make it very loud and clear how we feel by taking action and voting. And with that being said, I was going to ask you, Jimena, have you spoken to your campus administration or to the district administration on some of your concerns?
For this year, I haven't, because I'm definitely just waiting for the new board to be elected. Because even before the pandemic last year, I've tried to speak with probably all of the board members except Erasmo, because he actually responds, but everybody else, even at events, who would just go up to us, take our picture with my group, and then leave. And we want to talk to them and ask them questions. They would just say, no, I'm busy, but not too busy to take a picture and post it all over Instagram to get more votes, but too busy to answer our questions. Even Trey the mayor tries to just, if he sees me and he sees me going, he'll just turn the opposite way. One time he spoke to me, but every other time, even through DMs, emails, they're left undelivered or read. I don't know what he's scared of at 17. Well, then it was 16. I don't know what he was so scared of a 16-year-old. I'm 5'2". It's not like I'm intimidating. I just wanted a conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think, with your parents' consent, I want to see if we can set up some meetings with the deputy superintendent of curriculum, because I think we cannot waste any more time on this, because of what you're saying, that you're seeing that the students are going through. I mean, my gosh, we see that the employees are going through this, and we're trying to advocate for them. But, it's very frustrating, that we're also seeing and hearing the students going through this, and we don't know if there's enough parents that are advocating on the behalf of their own children. But, if you don't mind, if you want, we can try to start setting up some meetings so they can start listening to the students' point of view of what you guys are going through during this difficult time, because God forbid, we don't want for a student to get to that point where they think, that this is just too much for them to continue to go on, or things like that. They're just worried about, getting them back in the classroom and the testing and this and that, and they're failing and this. But what about giving them the support that they need? That's what they need to stop and think about. What you guys are going through. What is your typical day? And is it even possible to carry that out on a daily basis? I don't think they've stopped to think of that, and that's what I think that, they need to hear. They need to hear directly from some of the students.
Personally, I am terrified for my friends and all of them who attend school. Everybody has depression or anxiety, because every single day it's getting worse. They miss an assignment. They're only having their counselors to be like, hey, did you submit the assignment? Are you signed up for testing? That's the only thing they can get, because those are the instructions that the board has given. Make sure they test so they can get the funding. Other than that, they don't get enough funding or even instructions to tell the students what they're going through, because even counselors that know that these students are even on medication for anxiety and depression, they're just completely neglected all over any school. Even before, when they were neglected by counselors, now it's even worse. Like, I don't even know how they're even functioning. Obviously, they're behind because they don't think that it matters that they're submitting tests. They don't think that anything even matters anymore.
No.
So they're not realizing the danger they're putting the students, not just by taking them back to school where they might die because of this pandemic, but them not putting any funding to the guidance department or counseling department, they might die inside their own houses, and it will be their fault. And they do not care one bit. They just care about the funding, not the students, not the teachers, not any part of staff. And it is seriously concerning.
This is a perspective that just isn't talked about enough. Hearing your point of view, I thank you for sharing it, Jimena, so openly and honestly, because I don't think that we hear about it enough. You got the leaders and the adults up there talking and saying, go back to school and do this and that, but we don't hear enough about what's happening inside of the homes and from the students who are actually going through it. So I applaud you for sharing that and for being so open and honest. And it's affecting more homes than we realize. And it's important that we keep talking and keep using your voice. Please do.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
one of the things that I wanted to say was that teachers keep being told, be flexible with the students, be flexible with the students, be flexible with the students. But then in the be flexible with the students is the constant, like, they're not logging in, their camera's not on. What are you doing that their camera's not on? Why haven't they submitted their assignment? You need to be calling every day. So are we being flexible or are we not being flexible? Because if you're telling me to be flexible and I know Jimena's going through something, I'm not going to be calling her 50 times a day. I'm going to let her turn her assignment in late. I'm going to allow her to keep her camera off because you know what? Maybe she's having a bad day today and she just doesn't want to be seen for the day. So are we flexible or are we not flexible?
Yeah. No, we're not.
We're not flexible. So, you know,
We're not.
As usual, it's a very mixed message of the teachers in the board meetings. It's you know, it's unicorns and rainbows and ponies and let's be flexible. And then you get
and everybody's happy and everybody wants, according at the board meetings, everybody wants to return to the classroom. And the students are wanting to return to the classroom according to them at the school board meetings. And that is not true because that's not what we hear. Those aren't the phone calls that we get on this end. And, you know, people are scared and they need to get over that's not going to be the answer to everything of returning to the classroom. And that's it. So that's something that I'd have to say that the district has really failed the employees and the students of Brownsville.
Yep.
They also failed in other ways. Like they fail to realize that not every family is this perfect, normal family. Some only have like one parent that's always working because even on another live stream, they were saying, no, it's up to the parents' responsibility to take care of the children and measure every single thing that they do. But hey, some parents can't. They're always working and they have other things or they have other children. They can't just be next to the other student, making sure they do everything, that they have their cameras on, submitted every single assignment. It is just not possible for every family. You just cannot do that. Another thing they fail to realize is that in the Hispanic community, we have a lot of siblings. Some people live with their grandparents, uncles, little nephews. They cannot go back to school and possibly infect their grandparents, their little siblings. Personally, I have a 3-year-old sibling and a 2-year-old sibling. They just cannot. I personally cannot consciously and ethically go back to school, could possibly catch the virus and come back and maybe for that kill my 3-year-old sister and my 2-year-old brother. How could I possibly live with that for the rest of my life, knowing that I have killed my little siblings? It could also be with a grandpa or an uncle.
Yeah.
It is just not possible. It could ruin the rest of my life, killing my little siblings, seeing them at the hospital alone, dropping them off, seeing them go with an ambulance.
Yep.
And that's what happened. They end up going in alone because no one can visit anyone in the hospital. So even though you have your loved one in the hospital, you can't see them. So imagine how they feel in the hospital all alone as well. And then another topic is mental health. I think all of us are affected by this COVID in that sense. I mean, when I think of COVID and I think about my son, I panic. It really affects me. And I'm pretty sure that anyone who has been touched by COVID, and I think all of us have already, we think of that. Who's next? Did we sanitize our hands well enough before we came home or visited our parents? Because I still visit my parents and I keep thinking, my goodness, am I exposing them? But then if I don't go, they feel abandoned. So it's that struggle of what do I do? So even though I try to be safe, I can't stay away from them because, again, our culture is that we tend to our parents, we visit them, we take care of them, we provide what we can for them. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Is this just me? What makes me think here is, again, one of the many ways that the district failed the employees and students and community is like that of what Jimena mentioned. They got backpacks. How much money was spent on all these backpacks? Really? Did you all sit down to think, are they going to use these backpacks when they're going to be at home? Okay. Instead of, like how she mentioned, this could have been put to so many different things, but then again, they close themselves off, the superintendent and this very elite task force that they have to make these decisions. I mean, I'm sure all of those backpacks for the students, even though Jimena, you didn't get one, sorry, but I'm sure that was a lot of money. Yeah, but that was a lot. That's a misuse of funds. And I just wish, and I'm hoping, and this is why I'm hoping that everybody realizes the importance of voting, so they can realize that this is why our voice is important. We have complained about this, about getting on this task force, about listening to and considering our input on this. And as of still today, the superintendent has not done that, has not given us that opportunity. So how many hundreds of thousands of dollars went down the drain on these backpacks?
And glue and scissors and binders.
Yeah, they're probably in the corner of the room. Come on. They're working from home. They're at home, and the majority of them are not going to go back.
And we're high schoolers. I'm a senior. I have a niece that's stick of glue since elementary.
Vero, who was a student from Stillman that spoke in public audience with her mother?
Oh, Alice Elizabeth Tigret.
Okay, so these two students know more about what's going on than administration. Because if you recall, this young student said, I could not believe that just by looking at the schedule for open house, I knew right away my mom was not going to be able to go to my classes and my brothers. I think it was the brothers, right?
Yeah, a brother. Mm-hmm.
A brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have very young students, very young adults that know. Someone should be asking them what we should be doing, because obviously they get it. They get it. So
but
I want to
when you have a superintendent and board members that think that they have all the answers, no, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to happen, and they're going to continue to fall on their face, making mistake. But you know what? We cannot just sit back anymore because too much is at stake here. Vero, before we talk I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I am so proud of you, Jimena, of how vocal you are and how you want to speak up. But I want to talk about maybe if you have any fears of retaliation or how your friends feel about that. But if Vero, I don't know if you want to answer some of the questions on the comments, if we can go through those really quick, or what do you think?
Yes. Before we do that, I want to just give my cousin a little bit of a couple minutes for her. She's got to go. She has to go take care of my baby. And I just wanted to give her a minute so that she could kind of close and go ahead and go take care of her little one who needs her mommy right now.
Okay. No, before I go, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. This is probably one of I've been involved in a lot of panels and conversations, and this is probably one of my favorites because it's honest and real, and I can feel the passion from each one of you, and that's what we need right now. It's important that we put pressure on our leadership to institute a regulated approach to this pandemic, one that follows science, one that listens to health experts, one that listens to the students, and I can feel the power right here in this room of ladies, in this room of women. And I am just very proud of each and every one of you. And I know that with your leadership and with us coming together and using our voice, which is so important right now, that we can make change. So don't give up. There's going to be a lot of people who disagree, but it does not matter, because this is about life, about human life over the economy, over the stock market. So keep going. let's do this. And, I thank you again. And I look forward to being in touch and hearing about all of the great change you are making within your community.
Thank you so much for joining us, Fiona, and go take care of my baby.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and look at. I don't know that we are getting all the comments. I feel like it's really lagging because it's not. So I'm gonna try to get on the Facebook as well and see if I can find them on my phone and read them if they're not on there.
Okay.
But let me go ahead and highlight some of them. Ah. All right. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Figueroa.
Oh, okay. I think I can explain on this one, Mr. Beltran. The reason that TSTA, as far as for endorsing Biden, TSTA looks at the voting record of whoever it is that is running for candidate, be it if they're running for re-election or if they've been holding another seat in the Senate or whatever it is that they've been holding. They look at the voting record. Okay. Like we mentioned before, talk is cheap. It's about how you vote. It's about the actions that you take. So because of this, and we are a association for public school employees. So we ultimately fight for a better public school system. So because of that, we have seen what the Trump administration and the Biden administration history as far as where he has been in office, what they do for public education, how they support it. And I don't know if you have seen, but public education is very critical right now. The funding that we're getting, we are getting hit left and right with that. They tend to not be very fair between public education and the charter schools and private schools. Not the same rules apply. They get more funding. They get a lot more leeway on different things. So that is because of whoever is in control at this time. So with all of that, they take into account all of these things, and that's how they decide who gets endorsed. Though that information can be recovered from TSTA as far as the history and stuff, but that is why TSTA decided to go and endorse Joe Biden on this race. It's not about being a Democrat. It's not about being a Republican. It's about their actions, where they stand, and whatever is going to support public education. That is what they're going to support. And we would hope, since we're in public education, if our students are going here or if we're working in public education, we would hope that you would be in support of it as well.
Yep.
I hope that answered that question.
Her response was, all the district has to say about that is that it's only a recommendation, and that is the response that most principals are giving. Has the district started to listen to medical professionals?
They're recommendations, but that's where our district needs to stand up and step up and take into account the safety of the employees and the students. Okay, I don't care what TEA recommends. I don't care what the CDC recommends. Okay, we need to listen to our employees and to our students. Okay, they are fearful. Do they not think that because of all the fear that they have right now, that that's going to impact how they're doing in school? I mean, the superintendent and administration is so upset with the number of failing students. Do they want to stop and maybe think it's everything that these people are going through? And just because they're going to force them to report to the classroom, that's not going to guarantee that anybody's going to be passing just because now they are physically having to report there. So, yeah, the thing of when people say, well, Dr. Gutierrez is only doing what TEA is recommending and C is recommending, no, that's not true. And just what they recommend, we can still take it a step further. And we owe that to the employees of BISD and to the students of BISD.
And our community as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely right. Personally, as a student, I feel like if I were to go back and there were like no regulations, I wouldn't want to work. I would be scared not to touch anything, just like with probably like a bottle of Clorox wipes. I would be very uncomfortable. I would not be able to focus or think, especially during a test or any standardized testing. I would be terrified.
Yep.
It was very uncomfortable.
So I just want to, you know, they talk about how it's only a recommendation. And so my thing is, why are we doing the bare minimum of the recommendation when we have the option and the opportunity to do more?
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't
We have
make
a very
sense
healthy
to me.
fun balance.
Right. So it doesn't make sense to me to be doing the bare minimum when we know scientifically the bare minimum is going to be a disaster. Now that's science. That's science. That is their field of expertise, not mine. So if a doctor is telling me that, and I've also read that 6 feet apart has now been it's what 13, or I don't remember what the number was that they increased it.
It depends who you talk to.
Right. And then you have the new doctor that supposedly told the district that you have to be in the presence of somebody for 15 minutes. What happened to it staying on device? Yes, continuously. What happened to it living on metal on, what happened to that?
Are you sure it was a medical doctor that said that?
That's what they said.
We were
That's what Dr.
said. But we need to get the name of the doctor and really find out.
They said it was a doctor. And, so I'm not a medical professional, but, I do read and I do see like, okay, the CDC is saying this, they have to know better than me. They have to know better than me. This is what they do for a living. This is their job. They're scientists. They study these things. And while, yes, we still may not know a lot about it, they're the ones that know more.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we doing the bare minimum knowing that it's going to be a huge disaster that could cause, like Jimena said, trauma to kids because they end up coming to school, going home, not knowing that they're infected, infecting somebody, and then having to live with the fact, or vice versa, coming to school not knowing that you're sick and getting your teacher sick. Then you have to live with knowing you tested positive a week later, and then 2 days after you find out your teacher passed away and you were the only one that was positive in your class. It goes both ways.
Yes.
That's not something I would want my child to have to live with the rest of their life. That's traumatizing.
Yes.
So why can't we do the maximum to keep people safe? I don't understand. It just doesn't.
And that's why it is important. I'm sorry that I keep going back to it, but that's why it is important. If the people who are there holding these positions right now are not doing the job, because it is during a crisis that you see the real value of an association or the true character of people and people in positions of power. So it is right now that we are seeing what this superintendent is capable of or lack of, and the school board members. So this is why, if we do not like what we are seeing right now, what we are getting right now, then this is why we have to do our part to bring about that change that is needed at the local level and state and national level.
Exactly. Has the district started to listen to medical professional? Only the doctor that said we had to be 15 minutes continuously.
Yeah, they're not transparent on that. And that's the problem. And that is the problem of why did New York get it under control? Because they were being transparent and they were being honest.
And proactive.
That's all you have to do. We don't expect you to have the answers, but you know what? Be transparent and honest. And if whoever they're getting their advice from or recommendations, who knows? Because they're not being transparent on that.
Yep. BISD needs professional cleaning crews. Normal cleaning is not done like a professional would do it. Sanitizing and disinfecting is completely different from cleaning. Spend the money on safety. That's right, Mr. Martinez. And one of the things that would have been discussed had our association been included in the task force would have been that there would be maybe not a professional cleaning crew, but a cleaning crew that had been trained properly that would go and sanitize and with hazard pay or whatever. We would have had that discussion with the district had we been allowed to be a part of the task force. Thank you for all your hard work, ladies. I am a teacher, and putting us back in the classroom during this pandemic is ridiculous. The district needs to fight for our safety, and Governor Abbott needs to go. Thank you, Ms. Alfaro. Yes.
Absolutely. And we are going to continue to fight for that. We are going to continue to, we're going to push for hazard pay for the people who are going to be required. And we've shared our concerns already. And that's why, we have to push for some change on this to make this possible.
Yep. Teachers are treated dismissively and condescendingly. I don't know what happened with society and educational leadership that teachers are so devalued. It is very sad, me too. I'm going to tell you, there's been times that certain comments are made that I think to myself, you have a job, you can read, you can make a living because of a teacher. How is that? At what point did you forget the value of what you were taught by an educator through your life?
Absolutely.
I just don't understand it. Does the task force have qualified medical professionals to provide much needed guidance? Ms. Lopez, we assume no, because we still haven't been told who's on the task force, even though that's been requested since, I believe, May. We still have not been given the names of who's on the task force and making the decisions. But as far as we know, there is no medical professional.
It's probably just a little group, again, the same people with their elitist perspective and their elitism here in the Valley and even the city.
Amen.
Thank you. Even she can see that. 17-year-old. So the administration is not putting anybody else, as far as the employees or things like that. It's very clear of what they're doing.
Jimena is such a sharp and well-spoken young lady. If she ever runs for office, she has my vote. I'm so impressed with her and all you do. Thank you so much. And we agree.
You guys trying to build a race.
She's amazing. Students like Jimena are the ones that need to be speaking to the superintendent.
Exactly.
That is exactly how it is. Thank you for making that point. I would rather have my students logged in and participating than with their camera on. Exactly. And the elitist attitude filters all the way down to some principals who have been so heartless. Yep. Very true. But some board members were getting $2,000 for votes plus other special benefits.
And that's why they need to be voted out.
I don't understand why
Or audited.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I don't understand why some schools have close to no teachers on campus while others have all faculty on campus. Shouldn't all schools have the same options? So, Ms. Cortez, the problem there is that there's nothing in writing. And so it is somewhat a free-for-all. And we can always turn around and say, well, it wasn't put in writing, so it was how I took it. That's my interpretation of what was said. And, people
That's what happens.
Yep.
The superintendent refuses to put it in writing from the very top, and that is one of our requests of the reason that we did the vote of no confidence is his lack of communication and clarity. And this is why things can be, you have the exact same situation in campus A and campus B that can be right next to each other, but they're doing two completely different things because there's no consistency across the board in this district because of the superintendent. So until things change or we start to hold them accountable, it's going to continue the same. I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh, that I think is kind of funny how the BIC board and the superintendent, they're saying that teachers are being lazy, but what have they done? What are they doing? They're not the ones who are waking up at 6 a.m. and grading papers and finishing lessons at 10 to 12 p.m. I personally get notifications on my phone from Google Classroom that your test has been graded, your assignment has been graded, comment added at 3 a.m. What are they doing? Just receiving the checks, changing the budget so they get more money, and just stealing money, taxpayer money, for themselves. They're not doing anything or even a fraction of the work that the teachers are doing. Personally, I have my teachers who I see they're tutoring from 7 a.m., again, class, and finish at 6, and then at 7, have their extracurricular activities. Like right now, I'm missing my mock trial meeting, and it started like at 7 because she finished her tutoring at 7. How is that possible that they're working so hard, paid almost nothing, not even paid for tutoring hours, just for them to be insulted by the board and superintendent while they're doing nothing, just giving us backpacks or we're staying at home?
Absolutely. Yes.
Was it not said by this current board that they were not going to send anyone back until it was scientifically safe? Whatever happened to that? Ms. Ida?
That is what they approved, and they seemed to just have approved it, and they moved on and never looked at it again, because they have never really gone back to that to review that or to show that it is scientifically proven safe that we have some people back on campus. So
They never gave us a number as to what was scientifically proven safe either. However, the governor does have us in a hotspot. So in my opinion, if we're in a hotspot, then that should say we're not scientifically proven to be returning to campus.
Also, we were giving students, the teachers were telling us that I think within like 2 or 3 weeks, we were gonna choose if we were gonna be able to go back to school, which obviously a lot of students are gonna take just because they want to be with their friends and just because they want to chill and have fun, not because scientifically safe or because it's better for them to just get the option. And what if more than 70% of students choose to go? Is it just going to be full? Are they just going to ignore the pandemic and like if nothing is happening? Or what are they going to do? What's their mindset?
But Jimena, don't you think that a lot of those students that are going to choose that, which would be at your secondary or high school level, it's because they have the illusion that they think it's going to go back to the same thing of what it was before, and it's not going to be like that. Some of the districts upstate are already seeing that. Now, even though it's not going to be completely safe, it's not going to be the same though, and you're not going to have that ability to be able to have lunch together and all these different things, and that's what they're choosing, to go back to that. But they're going to be in for a surprise once they get there and they realize it's not going to be anything.
And there's been many articles in the newspaper saying that schools open and within a matter of 1 or 2 days are closed again.
Yep.
But yet you already have the people exposed to COVID who probably will get the virus or had the virus and making things worse. So we can learn from those schools that already opened and not open. But I guess they're not listening to what other people are doing.
No, they're not following. We don't have the prior experience or the prior numbers to count on or whatever, because this has never been done before. But we do have, we can look at. Sorry, my computer's gonna die. We do have the news to look at to see. This is what's happening when the schools are opening. This is what's happening. They talk about how they're going to have it safe and have the social distancing or whatever. But then you see all these pictures with the schools and the kids packed into the cafeterias and packed into the, there is no social distancing in the hallways, walking down the hall. How are you going to prevent them from coughing when somebody's walking by? How are you going to, it's not,
Yep.
Again, also since there's a lot of big schools, even like Veterans and Hannah and even Rivera, they're very big schools with a lot of people. So even if, let's say, 50%, which should sound reasonable to anybody else, but to somebody that's a teacher and a student, they would think 50%, that's a lot of people. Cafeterias, classrooms, halls. That's what I was mainly thinking and talking to my parents and everybody else, the halls. If they were already filled up, it's just impossible that they can control everybody. There were couples everywhere in the halls before. Everybody's everywhere. They're not going to be able to control them. Be like everybody checking that they have their mask. Even in a classroom, but during lunch and between periods and in the morning and after school, absolutely no way. There's just no way.
See, and then one of the things that they're saying to relieve that is that the students are going to stay in the same classroom all day, every day. That's going to be one of that's one of the solutions to them not being in the hallway, switching classes. So you're going to stay in your first period class from 8 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
But they forget when they go to the restroom. That's a common
We
area.
also forget our classes. Like, I don't have the same schedule as any of my friends. So are we all just going to take regular English, regular math, and everything else?
I don't know how they're planning on doing that. So that's the thing. To avoid all of these issues, we stay home. Right? I mean, it makes sense to me. This board is only going to listen to a doctor that says something that fits their narrative. Their narrative is that they want to send everyone back, so they will listen to advice that fits that.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I don't agree with that, but thank you for your answer.
That's pointed. And that is your right. I mean, it is your choice. It is out of our control. But we got to do what we have to do for the majority of the membership and what is best for public education.
Yeah. Jimena, you should speak at the board meeting on November 4th. Will you be doing that? This board needs to know that things are not okay from a student's perspective.
I would love to. I love to speak, especially if it's against the injustices of the students and teachers and staff, because this needs to be said. And if the board isn't going to listen, then we have to make them listen.
Yeah, we can do it. So we'll sign you up so you can speak virtually. That way you don't put yourself at risk. Okay?
Yeah. So them not putting things in writing is to cover for themselves. They're disgusting. Ida, will the vote of no confidence be brought up at the board meeting?
Absolutely. We're waiting for the change of board, God willing, because we know right now the current board would not allow us the time or the opportunity to place this on the agenda. So we are looking to put this on the agenda to discuss the issues and concerns that the community have with this current superintendent.
Also, I just wanted to add that I think it's like really weird how some teachers and even staff are somewhat like scared of like the BISD board and administration. Like, if anybody's watching this, like some of my teachers, even when we're like in Google Meets, they're kind of like scared to acknowledge that they've seen my like all the live streams. It's like very weird. Like, some people in this call might be this class have spoken up and are very well spoken, but certain subjects, not gonna say who and not gonna say that I've seen it, but some people should consider being in public office one day, because some people, maybe this class, have started speaking up. Maybe this class, maybe another, I don't know. Good speakers. Like, very vague. Like, if we're not North Korea, you can speak up. Where is this fear coming from?
It's very real, Jimena.
Yeah,
It's very real.
tell you, Jimena, retaliation is very much alive in BISD.
Yeah.
And even though we're adults, older adults, we face it almost every day sometimes. They will do things that are illegal, and they will still do it to you. And I'll give you an example. I was drug tested without a reasonable cause. And if I would have refused to be drug tested, they would have said, because you probably had drugs in your system. So when I approached them and I put it in writing, and I was very vocal about it, they said, well, if you knew it was wrong, why'd you go? So, and that's just one example. So yes, employees are retaliated, but at the same time, we have to speak up, because if we don't, no one will. Well, we have AOB. That's why I'm part of AOB. But at the same time, I need to do my part too. So I reported it to AOB, and I said, oh, and get this, I intentionally posted it on Facebook. And I said, I'm so happy BISD is drug testing all BISD employees, because I knew I did not fall in the category as safety position that required drug testing. When I got back to the office after being drug tested, they told me that they were going to write me up for posting something on Facebook during working hours. My response was, well, then you have to write up every employee that's on Facebook during working hours, because I'm not the only one. And the only thing I did was let people know that VIT was drug tested. And I even showed them the court case ruling where they violated my rights. So that's why employees are afraid. And I respect it because I was there at one time.
Mhm.
But I got to the point where I usually say this laughing, they made me this way. So I do speak out a little more and a little more. And COVID, I think, was the one that pushed me all the way through. But
Mhm.
retaliation is life.
Yep.
And the
Definitely.
thing is, I mean, it's scary at times, but we're still standing, and we're going to continue to do this because, you know, as scary as it might be at times and frustrating, you know, you're not alone. You just have to look for other people that are willing to do this with you. And you know, you start with 2 people, those 2 become 4, and then 5, and then before you know it, it's multiplying, and we're seeing a lot more people, you know, become braver and braver every time, you know, especially because of the pandemic. So we can't just sit back and let it happen. And I understand on the ones that who feel that way, and maybe today is not your day to speak up yet, but you know, maybe tomorrow or next week or next month, when it hits you in a certain way, you know that you can't stay silent anymore.
No,
And
and we're
And I also would like to add, AOBE has experts in TSTA, and they teach us about our rights. We
Yes.
have rights, and we have protections as school district employees.
Yep.
So for all the members that are watching, if you want to learn, let us know. We can invite you to what we refer to the member advocacy team, and they teach you about all your rights and how you can actually defend yourself. Case in point, your duty-free lunch. You have to have a duty-free lunch. And if you feel like they're not honoring it, then you need to speak up. And if you are afraid, contact AOBE, and we will contact the school.
Yep.
So AOBE is a good source of information.
Yes, and we're not only a good source of information, we're here to be your voice if you're not ready to use it, but we're also here to be your biggest cheerleaders to help you gain your voice and learn how to use it. So that's what we're here for, guys. I cannot stress enough the importance of. I know people are afraid. We get the calls every day, Ida, Micaela. We get the calls every day.
Every
Please
day.
don't put my name. Please, I want to remain anonymous. And a lot of times we can do that. But I do want you guys to understand that no matter what and whatever they come at you with, we're here for you. That's why we're here. And you know, us 3 and maybe soon Jimena, because she's amazing. Maybe I could hire her. She, you know, we're here to be the strength that you need when you're not ready to use your voice. There's so many things that are going on, and one of the things that was mentioned by one of the in the chat about the principals. I can't. It's further up, but talking about how the principals are being so mean and so ugly right now. To some of the principals are being like that with the teachers. You know, what happens is when we get the call, it has to be addressed as like a general thing, and so a lot of times, you know, the principal's like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. That they're talking about somebody else because they don't see that it's actually them. And sometimes we have to address the situation specifically for there to be a change. And when we do that, yes, they're going to know that it was you, but just know that from that day on, retaliation and targeting you can be reported and can be addressed and fixed. That's not something that we allow.
And it goes back to the circle. That's the reason why we have to vote.
That's why
the reason why we have to make people accountable. Yeah. And right now, we're just a few days from the general election, and 5 seats are up.
5 seats.
It's very important that we go out and vote and bring in people who believe in respecting employees and providing safety first. Because without the safety, the biggest asset a school district or any employer has is the people. Without the people, you don't have a district. Without the teachers, you can't educate the students. Without the custodians, who's going to clean the buildings? Without the transportation staff, and yes, we have to reinvent ourselves. We are living a pandemic. So we can use the same staff in other areas where they don't lose their jobs.
Right.
But the biggest asset is people. So protect them and respect them. So get out the vote. Call people up. Go to myob.com and look to see if your friends voted, your family voted, and if they haven't voted, call them. Hey, your name is not on the list. Why haven't you voted?
Right.
Yep. Tomorrow is the last day of early voting, guys. So if you're not sure, like Micaela said, please go online to check if they voted or not. And if they have not, please call them, guys. I mean, tomorrow's the last day of early voting. And then if not, you're going to have to wait for election day on Tuesday. But it is very important to try to get out there as soon as possible. We can't put it off any longer.
Right.
No, we can't. And just in closing, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but I just wanted to say, you know, like Ida said, and Micaela, what's our number of voters right now?
I haven't uploaded the list yet because I was busy doing something else.
But yesterday,
yesterday it was 30,000 for only BISD election. 30,000. We have already passed last 2 years ago. So people are voting, and I don't remember, Ida, what was the percent based on TSTA of our membership?
We are at about 62%. 62%.
I thought it was higher.
I think it was 68.
Oh, okay. Could have been.
But it was last week. That one was, I think
it was like 90, no? Once you removed all the...
Oh, yes.
I don't remember.
The adjustments. We'll look at that number and get the right number. But
galore.
Yeah.
So many numbers.
Yes. So
too many numbers, too many lists.
Yes. Miss Ida, do you have any last words?
Of course, I'm going to go back towards that the only way we're going to change the situation that we're in right now is by taking action. We have always had issues and concerns. It's never been a perfect district, and we're never going to have a perfect district, but it's never been to this level. The amount of disrespect and morale, that the low morale that we're seeing right now, it has never been like this. And there's a lot of things on the line here. And I love that we got to see a student's point of view today of what they're going through during this pandemic. And so I'm hoping that with this, it touched some people, you know, in a certain way where now they know, you know what, it's affecting everyone. And maybe they'll understand that this is why some of these students are failing, that maybe that's why some of these students pull away or can't log on or whatever the case might be. And I'm not saying so much that it's the teachers, because the teachers get to know their students a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about higher up. It's those people, the ones that are not connected with these students, that don't see what it is that they're going through. And, you know, we need to stop disrespecting the employees, the teachers, that because of everything that they're doing. It is not acceptable anymore. It's very upsetting. But you know what? I can't change it by myself, and the people here on this show can't change it by themselves. It's going to take each and every one of us to get up and go and vote. And if you have gone to vote, you got to take other people with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is very serious. And if we don't do it, we're going to continue to get what we're getting right now, guys. And it's only getting worse. More people are getting sick. And I'm not just talking about the virus. You know, this stress is taking a toll on their body. They're being affected mentally in so many different ways. Families are falling apart. we cannot sit back and just wait for it to fix itself. We need to all do our part. We have our endorsed candidates, which is Mr. Frankie Olivo, which is Mr. Erasmo Castro, which is Mr. Joe Rodriguez, known as Coach, and Mr. Carlos Elizondo. We need you to please take some time to do that and go and vote and encourage other people to do that. And other than that, please hang in there. After Election Day, we're hoping that we see some positive change and we start to see it right away. Okay.
That's right. Micaela?
I'm going to speak Spanish for those that speak only Spanish. No están solos, estamos unidos. Hay que salir a votar. Nuestra voz cuenta. Es muy importante que nos unamos. Si ustedes no pueden votar por una razón u otra, hablen con sus familiares, con sus amigos. Díganle la importancia de ir a votar. Nuestras vidas dependen de que nosotros podamos sobrevivir esta pandemia juntos. Por favor, vayan y salgan a votar. Gracias.
Ms. Jimena?
Thank you. Well, definitely, I want everybody to please go and vote because the BASD board and the superintendents, they're getting borderline tyrannical, scaring teachers and staff to not speaking. Even my own teachers are sometimes too scared to speak against them. Everybody needs to go and vote because of the students who are sometimes even contemplating suicide. Their depression, their anxiety, their levels are getting too high. Personally, I know these students and it scares me and I'm terrified for them. The students who are low income, because we do live in a low income city and district. I've seen students in other like Pace when I go pick up my friends go to school and in their lunch bag. It's not even a lunch bag, it's a bag from Soriana with their Tupperware because they don't have enough money to get a lunch bag. They're trying to see that they've cared all these years. They don't care and they've never cared and they will never care for the students. They're just there because they want money and they want power. They are not going to do anything even if we elect them. So we need to vote people that we know are going to do better because they care about the students and they care about the teachers and the staff, not just the pockets.
That's right. Thank you, Jimena. Before we go, I just wanted to send out prayers and good vibes to the family of Miss Uma Contreras, a wonderful human being who was very active in helping us in our phone banking and in getting out the vote activities. We send prayers and good vibes to her family, and just know that you know we're thinking about you and you all are in our prayers, and we're very glad that we had the opportunity to have her in our lives, even if it was for a very short period of time. So I just wanted to you know send some prayers her way, and I just want to again reiterate what everybody said: get out the vote, guys. We need to get out and vote. We have today, well, no, today's over. We have tomorrow and we have Tuesday. Please get out the vote. Your voice matters. We're making a difference. And, you know, we're already at a record high of voting. Let's make it 100% of educators voting. Let's make it 100% of our community voting. Registered voters voting. Thank you for joining us for tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And please, please, please get out the vote, guys.
Sí se puede. Bye.